Welcome to See You on the Internet, a podcast exploring life, love, and the pursuit of happiness in the age of the internet. We're your hosts.
I'm Kate.
And I'm Nicole.
Let's get into it.
Okay, I'm excited. Kate and I have been talking about filming an episode like this for quite some time.
Legitimately, I think 3 years we've been like, we should do a Mother's Day episode. And we always think about it. And then
you say, nah.
No. And then it's like 2 weeks later and we're like, we didn't do it.
So we're finally getting our shit together this year. And
it's about time.
This is an R-rated podcast, so you can say whatever you want.
Okay. Sorry.
Yeah, very exciting. Both Kate and I were like, okay, it's kind of like our in-laws are meeting for the first time because you guys have never met like face-to-face before.
I was like, I am feeling excited. I'm feeling nervously excited. I don't know if they like each other. It's like
I'm sure we're all good, not to worry.
No sweat. How's your Mother's Day going? Both of you.
Oh, we've had a great
Mine's
day.
going well. I'm drinking. What the heck, man? It's Sunday. It's nights out, and I'm drinking. It's a perfect day.
It's been sunny. It's a gorgeous day here.
I love that.
We went out for breakfast, my favorite meal. Breakfast.
Where'd you guys go?
We went to the Kitchen Cafe.
Oh, classic.
Right? And they're now serving at the tables there.
You don't have to go up, which is really nice.
It's very nice.
Huge.
Yeah.
I can't remember. Where is home now? Are you still renovating?
No.
It's not Cape Cod, right?
We're in the cottage where we lived for like 8 months.
Okay.
But
so did I.
The house, and you did too.
I lived here too once.
And the house is fully renovated now, so we're back in the house. So.
Yeah, Mom, they are on the Cape.
We're still
okay. Yeah. I just couldn't remember where they were living.
Yeah. We're still on the Cape.
Cape Cod. I know, Pam, for a hot minute, you guys were potentially coming to live in our neck of the woods. I wish.
I said, that's not working for me. I said, I'm so used to, like, because I used to travel before COVID. I'm like, I need an airport that's like 20 minutes away, that has straightforward flights, no stops, no layovers. And I get that out of Chicago. And I'm like,
yeah.
We can't live too far from Boston because I'm not flying out of Manchester.
Yeah.
Don't get me wrong. I wish that I had gone back to the East Coast, right? That's time has come and gone. I mean,
she's a Midwestern girly now. I'm taking over.
City forever.
I mean, when we first moved
Nicole's doing the East Coast now.
I know. Yeah. When we first moved here I came from New York, and it was like maybe a year later, and Mark said, we're going to move to Iowa. And I go, there is no way I am moving to Iowa. Let's be clear. No way. Like, I'm not telling my New York friends that we're moving toIowa. I don't want to go to Iowa. So thank God we never.
Yeah, I don't even want to visit Iowa, let alone Iowa.
Thank God we did not move to Iowa. I didn't grow up in Iowa. God.
I don't even think that we would know each other.
Mm-mm.
Yes, sir.
I would have gone to Iowa State. I would have been in a sorority.
You would still go to BU. I'm still would have brought you out east. No, I disagree.
Yeah, Nicole, you would have had to get out of Iowa.
You're right.
You would have been in Miami and Iowa. Oh no, that's Ohio.
No, Ohio.
That's Ohio.
Almost worse.
Yeah.
Yeah, I actually think I would prefer Iowa over Ohio.
Miami,
no offense to anyone listening who's from either Iowa or Ohio, but
okay. Well, we rip on Ohio all the time. That's why Riley gets mad at us.
Well, she got even more mad at me when I said I went to Cleveland and I didn't hate it. And she was like, I'm concerned about you.
You didn't hate Cleveland?
No, it was really nice when I went. I don't know, it was really clean, really quiet. The lake was great. It was a great lake right there. I had fun. The food was good where I went.
We drove through Cleveland when we drove from Boston to Chicago.
Oh yeah.
Yes, we have driven through Cleveland.
No, not you. I'm talking to Kate when we road tripped from Boston.
During COVID.
And then we got COVID.
Yeah, and then we got COVID.
We should have driven back. We should have driven back through Cleveland because we got COVID on the flight.
You know what? Quintessential moment. Yeah. Quintessential moment.
That was that was a moment in our friendship for sure.
Well, I was happy because I made you a turkey dinner.
Yeah, we had Thanksgiving.
Kate talks about it all the time, Mom.
I do. We went there and Pam made us a full Thanksgiving dinner in October. It was awesome. It was
All
awesome.
right, let's be clear. It was an abbreviated because it was a frozen turkey, not a fresh. And I probably cheated on a number of things that I
We
don't
did stovetop stuffing, I think.
Yeah, I think
Which
so
is the
too.
only way to do stuffing.
Which is just fine. Absolutely.
It's not. It's more than fine.
It's good.
It's the
good.
only way I actually like stuffing.
Nicole too, yes. But she likes my stuffing on Thanksgiving, but she likes stovetop stuff.
Yeah, I mean, it's the best. All right, so you guys, we are just generally shooting the shit because we want to catch up with you guys on Mother's Day. But also, I think one of the big things that people like about Kate and I is, I don't know if you guys know, we do Manifest Minute. We've done the Kate Nicole hotline. People love to hear advice from us.
We're very wise.
We're very wise for our big age of 31. Kate, 2 weeks until she joins me. And so I think,
How
it would
can
be
you
great
be 31 if I'm only 39?
So true, Mom.
I don't understand that at all, man. Anyway, go ahead.
You don't look a day over 35. What are you talking
Thank
about?
you.
And actually, today is Pam's birthday, so wish her a happy birthday.
Happy birthday.
Yeah, what the heck?
Woo! Damn.
I was my mother's best present ever.
And she's still reaping the rewards today from that as well.
I use it to my advantage every possible second.
But I think it would just be kind of nice. I think one thing that, as Kate and I get older, and one thing that we've really loved about the podcast is kind of like having an archive of our friendship and stuff that we've gone through in our lives and being able to look back on that. And so, part of the reason why we want to do like Mother's Day episode, Father's Day episode is just kind of hear from you guys and your life and be able to commemorate and kind of archive a little bit about your stories and your lives. I think you both are really, really special to the both of us. And so we want to just be able to hear from you. And you both have lived such incredible, exciting lives. I think that, it would be great to just hear some of your favorite moments from your life so far. And obviously it's Mother's Day, so we're celebrating you being moms, but there are so many wonderful things that you've done outside of just becoming mothers. And we just want to hear a little bit more about that.
Thank you.
But we also want you to tell us how great we are and that we are also your best gifts and greatest joys.
I figured as much. That one was not.
It wasn't just about us.
I figured that much. That already came through, yes.
We're always going to have a slight ulterior motive to have our moms on here.
Kate was
someone has to.
We should be clear to the audience, right? So I have 3 children, right? So Nicole is not the only one, but for a long time, Nicole was the only godchild. I mean, grandchild. She, for many years on both sides, the only grandchild. She had 2 birthdays, and it lasted a month. She was loved by all, taken by all, and that's how she grew up to be her, right? So part of Nicole is that princess part of her.
That's Kate too. Kate was an only child for 6 years.
Oh, okay, longer.
Yeah, I had a long time to become this way.
She did.
It makes sense that you two are so close then.
Yes.
It makes perfect sense now. I can appreciate that.
So we have 2. So there's Kate and David, who was born 6 years later. So yes, we had plenty of time with Kate, who let us know who she was right away. She didn't like grow into Kate. Kate came out as Kate. So Kate was named after kind of Katharine Hepburn because she was a strong personality.
One star to another.
And so we knew that she was going to be.
Okay, wait, your past life should be Katharine Hepburn too. One of your past
lives.
I
have multiple. Yeah, I told Nicole last week or a couple weeks ago how I thought I was Cleopatra when I was younger.
She was many things. Kate was many things. She took on many personas.
Did your psychic tell you that, Kate?
No, I did. I told myself that. Yeah.
So even before she could write, Kate was dictating to me plays. and she would cast everybody in the neighborhood into her plays. And they had no idea that they were going to be in a play, but
They were.
Kate would orchestrate
Surprise.
this. But I found one not long ago. You didn't
What?
know that?
No, I didn't know.
I told you
Okay,
that.
table read.
I don't have it with me, but
Oh,
she would dictate plays.
Was
to
it
me.
Little
It was a
Miss?
princess. It was a princess.
Was it the Little Miss Jack and the Beanstalk? And I mashed up Little Miss Muffet and Jack and the Beanstalk.
No, that was later. That was when
Okay.
you did that on your own
Yeah, I
with
did
the
that one.
neighborhood kids. But yeah, so she would always go, "Mom, write this down," and she would.
And you want to know what I'm
She
still telling Nicole? Nicole, write this down. I'm still
Good
telling
thing,
Nicole
Nicole.
to write things down.
do those words ring true to?
100%.
One thing about me is I'm never gonna write it myself. Someone will be describing.
But Kate always said that she was going to be on the red carpet. That was the other thing. She had visions of herself. She knew who she was and what she wanted to do. So she was, someday I'm going to be on the red carpet. And well, you kind of were. I mean, here you are doing these things, and you're kind of out there.
I've never been on a red carpet.
You've never.
Though.
Well, okay.
But
Hey,
never
not
say
yet,
never.
Kate.
Not yet. Not yet. There's still
Not
plenty
yet.
of time.
I still have
The
time.
F1 movie is coming out next month, Kate. We're
The
still
F1 movie
we're
is coming
still
out.
pitching that.
Brittany, if you're listening, you know you have a job to do.
Because she's seen it already. She knows.
I've been manifesting.
You have been manifesting a very long time. So this isn't anything new.
Mom, have I always had a big personality?
The tables kind of laughed at that question. Just to let you know, I'm surrounded by my family. So Auntie Bettina can barely hold in her laughter. And we tell the story quite often that when I went back to work, we had a nanny, and it was like her first week, and she disciplined Nicole and sent her to her room. And I used to have, the nanny cam, the mommy cam, that you could listen to what's going on. And she was
The
up in
baby
her
monitor?
room. Yeah, whatever. She was listening. Chickie was listening. I can't wait till my mother comes home because you're going to be fired because you sent me to my room. And I can't, she just over and over and over again. You're going to regret the day.
Hey, one thing about me is I've always hated authority figures.
True, right? When Nicole was playing badminton,
Right.
and the coach said to her, I can't allow you on the team because you're uncoachable because you don't follow my rules. It's been a pattern from day one early on to today.
It's so funny that Nicole and I ended up such good friends because Nicole hates authority figures and I follow rules. And so
You're
it's
a
almost
rule
like
follower.
Nicole is my authority figure where Nicole makes the rules and I'm like, yes, I will follow.
Well, you
Even to the
literally
fact that the only time the school ever called me on any of my children was when Nicole was in elementary school and decided, now she could come home for lunch, don't get me wrong, but her and her friends decided to go to the pizza place, which was completely not allowed. And the school
it was
called
3
me.
blocks away.
The school called me and said, please come down, your daughter's in trouble. I'm like, oh no, what's going on? None of my other children ever called me to the school.
I'm
Just
honestly
Nicole.
shocked. Kyle, if you're there, good for you.
He is, yes. He had the look of appalled. What are you talking about?
Okay, but here's the thing is that I got in trouble. They just never got caught. They threw house parties when you guys were away. I never got left alone. Like I never had an opportunity as the eldest child to get in trouble.
100%. That is the peril of being an oldest child is the eyes were always on you until a second child comes along and then the eyes are split. And so the second child can do anything they want. And the third,
You put all
Kyle
your
had
hopes and
no
dreams
one
into
even looking.
me. Kyle comes along and you say, you know what? We've given up.
No eyes
Do whatever
on
you
Kyle.
want.
Nicole's eyes are on Kyle now. That's it.
No, I thought your eyes were on Kyle. You were babysitting, were you?
Oh.
Clearly.
Okay, Danielle and
fault
Kyle,
lies
you
above
better
me.
wish me a happy Mother's Day. Okay? Happy Mother's Day to me.
Yeah, Mom, tell them about my love of authority figures and honestly becoming the figure of authority.
Oh my God. So Kate would play with people and she would always pick the one that was like really shy. And
I was very welcoming.
she was very welcoming. And so she'd have these friends come to the house, and I could hear her downstairs going, "We should do this, and you should do that, and we should do this." And so I would pull her aside and say, "Kate, you need to like let them decide on things." And so one time I said something, she said, "Mom, my friends need someone like me because they don't know what to do, and I help them know what to do. So my friends need someone like me." And that was the time that I said, "She knows who she is." And so I backed away, and sure enough, she did guide them through.
I was a little bit of a dictator, I
She
think.
was very much. We in preschool, we had this orientation. I think, Nicole, I've told you this story. We had this orientation at preschool, first day of preschool, and we're in the playground, and the teacher says, "So, what did everybody do this summer?" And Kate goes, "People, people, people." She around in circle. She got everybody's attention. We went to the Cape, and then we did this, and then we did that. And every time the teacher had to leave the room to go do something later in preschool, she would say, "Kate, have everybody go sit in a circle." And Kate would say, "People, the teacher wants us to sit down." So I had to kind of pull her aside and say, "Okay, I have to teach you about what a hall monitor is, and you don't want to be a hall
Yeah,
monitor."
it's amazing that you made
I was on my way to
amazing you made it
becoming
through
George
life.
Russell hall monitor, and I had my mom is the reason I am no longer. I didn't end up there, thank God.
She was well on
Yeah,
her
I
way.
Kate, we would not have been friends if you were little brown nosing
Wait,
weasel.
were you ever a hall monitor? That's what I
No,
want to
oh my
know.
God, I grew out of it.
No,
No, I
she doesn't.
actually, my mom did one time. I remember this so vividly to the point where I'm like, this impacted really who I am as a person. Is my mom took me aside as we're learning. She was off to do, pull me aside and teach me something about myself. And I remember her saying, "Kate, you need to learn to read body language. You are a little too
I'm
much
gonna
for
nickname
people
you Sheldon
sometimes,
Cooper.
and you need to take it down. You have to watch and look at people's faces and see how they're feeling, and you might need to tone it down a little bit sometimes." And honestly, I think I may have gone the other way, because then I got into, like, I had severe anxiety. I was like, I can tell you don't like me. I can tell I'm annoying you. So I may have taken it too
And that was
literally.
our cue. I would
Yeah.
do this.
Yeah, she would go, and I would have to say, "Shutting up now." But no, and then so yeah, I grew out of it. I grew out of being a hall monitor. I was an internal hall monitor. I was hall monitoring myself, and I
Okay.
still to this day hall monitor myself.
That's true.
I'm
That's
always
so
punishing
true.
myself more than anyone else is ever going to punish me. The only reason
And
I
you
was
know
ever
what? That's how it
grounded in
goes.
high school is because I did it to myself. Yes. I told my mom, I said, "So and so's mom is going to call you and she's going to tell you that I smoked weed, so I should probably be grounded for a while, right?" And she and my dad were both probably like,
Laughing.
"Thank God you finally did something." Loser. Nice. But they're like, "If you think you should be grounded, then I think that's probably fair."
Yeah.
Kate's
Because she would like
self-disciplining.
speak her every thought. So we knew exactly what she was thinking all the time.
And they were
She
like,
wears
"God,
her
thank
heart.
God you find."
She wears her heart on her sleeve, right? Let's
That's
be
what we
clear.
love
And
about
beyond
her.
that, yes.
Yes, and beyond that, yes.
So
I'm obsessed with that.
yeah. And meanwhile, then
Okay.
What
David
a
came
good
along.
combo.
Yeah, me and Nicole are kind of the ultimate
Then David came along.
because Nicole's like, "We could do whatever we want," and I'm like, "Except maybe not."
See, but I need you because you ground me a little bit.
And I need you
keep
because
me-
you push me outside of my comfort zone a little.
Exactly.
Yeah.
You make me feel like it's
Perfect
okay to
pair.
break the rules sometimes,
It is.
and I have to
It is.
remind you that there are rules, and
Yeah,
remind
but
you that we're
we don't
breaking
always.
them.
Yeah, but who are the rules for? Ultimately, at the end of the day, is the question we need to be asking, right? Who decided on the rule, and why do they have the authority to make that rule?
So Pam,
And I
where
would
did
say,
this
right?
come from? Where did this?
So I'm gonna tell you, right? So my father, Bill, never followed any rule ever whatsoever, right? And so I don't like rules either, right? So growing up, they made me wear my seatbelt, right? I'm like, I gotta wear a seatbelt? Like, I hated that rule. I had to wear a helmet when I rode my motorcycle. Who are you to tell me what to do? Right? So, I mean, I'm not a big rule follower myself, let's be clear. But my dad never, ever, ever. In fact, he had problems with his jobs because someone in authority would say, you got to do this because it's corporate rules. And he'd be like, I'm not doing that shit. No way. You know, Grandpa. He's like, no. And then even when we were like needing to get in the club and you're only allowed to play twice, and he's like,
The country club, not the
country club.
nightclub.
He's like,
Only
you
allowed in the
can
nightclub
play,
twice.
you can play as many times as you want, Pam, because I'm in charge. They called him the mayor, the commish of Isla. So, yep, that's where it all comes from.
That makes a lot of sense.
Again, you just have to, if you act with enough authority, people will listen to you. This is why people, you said this recently, Kate, where you're like, you just say things so confidently that I believe everything that you say.
It's insane because Nicole will say things with absolutely nothing to back her up. In fact, I will have
No
pages of
hesitation.
research to the contrary, and I'll be like, that's not true. And she will just be like, no, it's true. And I'll just be like, I might be wrong. Like, I have all this research and I still think maybe she's right because she is just so confident. And I'm like, I think she's right. She and Nick, this is why she and Nick are the same. I'm like, I just believe the two of you so much that I even know that you're wrong, but I'm still believing you.
Well, that's me and my corporate job too.
You know what, Nicole? You're a change maker.
I am. I'm a change maker. I'm a taste maker. Okay.
She's an
Don't you
agent
forget
of
it.
change. She's an agent of chaos and an agent of change.
See, you know what? That's what I did because I never worked for a company. I've always been independent. So I
And you know what?
followed that as well, but I don't buck the system. I just kind of created my own way into the system. And so I was never caught up in the bureaucracy of everything. I would come in, do my thing, come out and carry on.
But
Pam thrived in the bureaucracy.
I think from the advice, right? So I hate rules, right? Let's be clear, right? But one of the things that has always been a
Don't
challenge
get
for
it
me
twisted.
as a woman, right, is I could never go through the front door, right? So when you're having a policy or you want to make a decision and you need to present and you have to do it a certain way, my success in corporate world came through the back door. Like I never knew I could never be successful through the corporate world. I always had to figure out how to do it through the back door. And so there's many reasons for all of us women to be successful. You just have to figure out what the role you're playing and how to get there.
Yeah.
Because the voice that you have is important, but not everyone will listen to you. And so you have to figure out, how do I get my voice listened to? And which way do I go? Through the front door or through the back door?
Yeah.
Just
I
FYI. Words of
agree.
advice.
Yeah. I agree totally.
Yeah, I think that that's why it's very much sometimes in my current motto at work is it's better to be liked than to be right. Right now, I'm like, I'm not trying to force my opinion on people right now, even though I know best.
Nicole's learning to conform a little bit right now.
Your auntie's laughing at that one, just FYI.
And I do know best. What did I tell you about my job that I was going through this week? Like, I do know best, and some people want to say that I don't, and that's just wrong. Anyway, yes, you do have to utilize the ways around.
Yeah, I think young women need to understand that there's more than one way
Yes.
to achieve success, either through corporate, right? And corporate gets a knock, right? I get it. Corporate for me in the early days is different than corporate now, right? Loyalty, yada, yada, all those things are important. But still, you can achieve your personal goals. What do you want to get by determining how you want to get there? And there's no single way, is all I'm saying to everyone.
So I wasn't in the corporate world because I'm a therapist, but I never followed the traditional.
Not a
therapy
mental
role.
therapist, by the way.
Not a
I
mental-
would be so much better off if she was a mental therapist, I think.
No, I was an occupational therapist, but I specialized in sensory processing. Hence the bring it down. So
I did take the ADHD test maybe yearly.
you did.
I never passed.
And still no.
No.
And I passed.
We would modify things for her. So no, you were really good, but you were
High functioning?
hypersensitive to things. So anyway, but I would never do, could never do the traditional therapy role.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm very much like you, Pam. You kind of create something and come in through the back door. And so
Yeah.
that's what I would do. So I would run 3 different kinds of independent treatment approaches in different ways. And then Kate and I were talking one time on the cave here, and she goes, "I want to be like you, where I'm a stay-home mom." Remember that? Oh my
Yeah.
God, were you there, Nicole? Were you there?
No, I don't think I
Nick
was there.
She goes, "I want to be a stay-home mom like you." And I said, "Kate, I was never a stay-home mom. I created a private practice so that when you were born, I could then treat and not have to work all the time. So I was always home when you needed me, but I created a whole practice around
Which is,
having
I
her."
feel like, kind of insane because you created something that I
Was
actually
never aware of.
never knew that you had a job. I was like, Mom's always around. She's always home. I'm like, oh, Mom must be so bored when I'm at school. Like, Mom must miss me so much. Like, what is she doing with her days? And lo and behold, she is hustling,
I'm hustling.
owning her own business, and I'm just like, oh man, what time is it? The people are like, do you want to come over after school? I'm like, gotta get home. My mom's probably really lonely without me. My dad doesn't get home until late.
So, question you, Kate: when did you realize? At what age did you realize that your mom had this amazing path of
I
her
think like
life?
3 years ago. Well, I knew that.
For those of you that can't see this,
Nothing against stay-at-home
Kate's mom
moms. I
is
think that you
laughing
guys
her
actually
pants
have like
off
a
and
really
falling
hard
off.
job if you are a stay-at-home mom. So that's nothing against
that.
nothing
Yeah.
against that.
No, we're nothing against staying home mom. No,
But so she's literally crying, So I did
can
know
see
that you
that.
I knew that you had a private practice probably when I was in like upper middle into high school because I
Right.
worked there with you for a little bit. Remember the
Right.
plateau,
Yes.
the reservoir.
Yeah.
I was teaching people about reservoirs. I don't know why, but we're plateauing and there's a reservoir and lakes. I don't know what I was teaching them, but I was teaching them something.
It was handwriting.
Oh,
Oh God,
yes.
that was so funny.
And so I did know that, but I think in my head I was kind of like, yeah, she spent my whole early childhood, and me and David, she was a stay-at-home mom, and now she's bored enough that she's starting her own thing.
Yeah. So she was saying like, "So you were always home?" And I said, "No. Remember, I would drop you at so and so's house because then I would go and evaluate a child. I do a workshop for a community. I'd come back, pick you up, and bring you home. I would put you to bed at night. I'd need you to go to bed because I was writing up reports, and then I would meet with parents at night. Oh my gosh, it was so funny. She had no idea.
Well, you did a really great job at making
Obviously.
me feel like I was like legitimately the only thing in your life. So like, thank you, because you also really definitely inflated my sense of self-importance. I was like, I am the only thing that she cares about until I was 6 and David came along.
Yeah.
Clearly, that was opposite of us. I remember when
I was going to
Nicole-
say, I think this is a good dichotomy
yeah,
here.
because we realized that we needed a nanny, right? For the first day after I went back to work after I had Nicole, her dad was taking care of her, and I worked second shift. I used to work shift work, and her dad called me like an hour after I went to work. He goes, "You got to come home. I can't handle. You got to come home." So I had to say to my boss, "I got to go home. My husband's taken out." Again, as I grew through the corporate hierarchy, right? So we realized that we needed a nanny. It wasn't working because she went to an at home, and I'd be talking to Mark on the phone. Oh, is this the right way? Now I'm old. I'm showing. You got to go pick up Nicole. I'm too busy. I go, well, I can't get out of work. So it'd be like 7:30, 8 o'clock at night. And Teresa,
Nicole's just like,
Teresa would be like, this is not working for me. You guys, you were supposed to pick her up by 6 o'clock and it's 8 o'clock. And we're like,
Oh my God.
we gotta do something different.
Nicole's in the window. When will my husband come home from war? But when will my parents come back to claim me?
Literally, I had a different family.
Definitely true, right? And so
what was the experience kind of like of being like working moms?
My mom can't answer that because she didn't have it.
Well, I'll answer it because I was in corporate, right? So
I
I
was
think
cooking all the time.
it was still early in my career, right? So you graduate at 22 or 23, right? So
Yeah.
I spent until Nicole was born, I was really in customer service. You know, I had to work shift work, 7 to 3, 3 to 11, 11 to 7, right? It was rotation. I didn't have choices. It was, you went to work every day. That's how it was, right? And then when I had Nicole, I think they realized, oh crap, Pam might leave. She might be a stay at home mom. So they kind of promoted me and gave me some freedom out of customer service now to have a regular, normal shift job, right? But they kept giving me so much responsibility, implementing new technologies every single time. And so when I'm the only one there that knows how to make sure the plates are coming for the press that has to deliver the notice and proxy or the IPO and it has to hit the mail, I can't go home because we'll fail. And that's why it's like, okay,
Mm.
this is a problem. But as I grew in the corporate culture, I had freedom, right? And so when Nicole and Danielle and
My
Kyle,
mom regularly chaperoned my field
yeah, I was
trips.
there, right? But as I grew older, I was able to have much more freedom. And I think that's the gift in and of itself is as you grow through your any career, how do you establish the goals and the freedom that you want? And if it's not working for you, then you should definitely change. And I probably would have changed if it kind of maintained or stayed at that level, right? But it became the right way for me to work and the right way for my kids, so it worked out well for us.
Mhm.
It's kind of interesting because I think that a lot of people
Sure.
assume that once you have kids, it's almost harder for you to like progress in your career, or like you're like, oh well, now I'm not going to have as much responsibilities or because I'm going to be home. But it was kind of the opposite for you, where like having Nicole gave, like, kind of showed the company how much they wanted you to stay, and so they gave you a promotion. And it was like having becoming a mom almost like gave you a boost into like
Lifting.
climbing up there, and
Which
kind of
is
the motivation, which is
crazy
cool.
because it feels like that's actually, I think they've done studies where it's like when men have kids, they regularly get promoted at work,
And
and
for
when women have
what?
kids,
No offense,
they
guys, what are you
Well,
doing?
I was fortunate enough, and you have those career, right? Here's some advice, right? You have those career kind of milestones, right? And so there was a brand new leader in my business unit who came from Harvard, and I think we had a connection about business, and we talked a lot, and he became my mentor, and so I think he really said, well, I don't want to lose her. And so you got to find those people that you can connect with that help you with your career,
Yes.
because that's what really was the founding kind of the creation of my forward momentum. Because if it wasn't for him, if it was the same old white guy, like my supervisor hated me, called me fucking princess, like you're a fucking princess. I needed to breastfeed, and I needed time, and he, like, I got my personnel file and I could see what he wrote in my personnel file. She's asking to breastfeed 3 times during her shift and go into the private bathroom. Like, he actually wrote that down in my personnel file. So you have those blockers, and then you have to find those people who throw you up, who advance you, gang.
Hmm.
Yeah,
I think you're.
absolutely.
I think you're right. I think networking is really important and connecting with people that can catapult you forward. So I remember doing that because I was working with a school system. I was working two school systems in Boston, and I left to have Kate, and I was going to stay home, and I wasn't sure if I was going to come back for a year. So when I went back, they had followed my suggestion of hiring some occupational therapy assistants. So that kind of took my job. And so
She gave her own job
I
away.
gave my job away. But it made me rethink things. And it made me think, okay, what is a gap that I'm seeing in my profession that hasn't been filled? And it made me create something that wasn't there. And I did it
yeah.
through, I was doing working with a really renowned therapist in our field, and we were developing a pediatric evaluation. And so I went to her, and she said, create a business. And I said, okay, I'm thinking about doing this. She goes, no, you need to be a consultant. And so then that created the business that I had. that I continue to have. And so, and I was able to
That
tweak
takes
it.
courage. That takes
Yes,
courage to do that. Yeah,
she
there's
encouraged me
like
to
it's
do
all on
that.
you. It's all on you. You have to drive the business. So
Yes.
tremendous amount of kind of pressure and tension and
Yeah.
can I succeed? Way to go.
Can you do
Hey,
that?
Kate and I know
You're
all about
working with
that.
what the kids need, your role as a mother. So, how can I fit it in around my role as a mother? And it made you be creative. It makes you open up. Like Nicole, I look at you and go, you have so many talents. You need to start busting out of where you are because it's holding you back. So
You're so right,
start,
though.
I mean, this is that, I support you guys in what you're doing here. So think about how can you make this really work if you want to continue this. But you need to get those I don't know, mentors or networking people to help you do that.
Well, I think you guys are our biggest advocates as well.
Mhm.
So
But if
we're
no one listens to our podcast, I know she's listening. I know, I know. And we were talking about this the other day. We said my mom is our most consistent critic, and she's. I was like, if anyone is
tough
actually
but
gonna
fair.
tell us what we're doing wrong or something that could be changed, it's definitely going to be my mom. And I was really laughing the other day when you responded to our story about our outfits, and you said, "Love these." Didn't like the bike shorts. I was like, "Okay." She's like, "Didn't like the tube tops or the bike shorts," and I said,
Don't.
"Okay."
Elevate to move
It's
you
about
guys forward.
okay, but it's about comfort. Those are about comfort. It's
Yeah,
really hot.
you guys are on this platform. You need to elevate just a little bit. I'm sorry.
Again, tough but
It's
fair.
not sweats all the time and leaning back in your bed. It's
Yeah, well, we were in gowns
you-
last week. Were you happy with us in gowns?
How about wear a
last week?
bra? Maybe wear a bra.
except if you're so
Did
far
you hear that,
back,
Nicole?
you can't
Did you
Yeah,
hear
I
that,
did.
Nicole?
Kate doesn't wear them either, so
What?
Okay, she's not my daughter.
bras.
I don't wear
could,
bras.
I could provide it, but
I
just,
hate
just
the
a
bra.
suggestion.
I have one single bra, and it's for
all
my
I can
job.
say is when you get older, you're gonna wish you wore a bra.
No, there's no,
Oh yes. Oh
no.
yeah.
There's
I'm
science.
sorry.
There is science that says that bras actually train your skin and your muscles to rely on that. So then, when you don't wear them, then they get saggy. But if you don't wear them, they learn to prop themselves up.
No. No.
See, this is what happens with Nicole. Is I have science.
You're looking at the African community. I'm sorry. No, that doesn't.
I'm
No.
looking at the other women around the table. They're all shaking their head no.
Right?
Okay,
Right?
but bras
No.
stink. Oh
Well,
my
they're
God.
different
I hate a
kinds
bra.
now. You don't have
Also-
to do the underwire. You do different kinds. You do not.
You know what? I have a short amount of time here on this planet, and if I don't want to wear a bra, I don't have to wear a
You
bra.
don't. You don't.
And guess what? If I like my boobs, who
Saggy?
I'm married at this point. Who am I impressing? Who am I attracting with my saggy boobs? Nobody. Nick is lucky to be there.
Nick is fine. Yeah. I'm just saying.
I'm married at this point. I can do these boobs can go to the ground if they
when
want
I go to girls' weekend, they're all saying, "Gosh, I wish I wore a bra more often." That's all I gotta say. I'm going. To
That's the
next
advice.
week. I'll poll them and see what they say.
We'll put out a poll with this and say, how many of you wear a bra? How many of your moms wish they wore bras more? Okay, I want to
Anyway.
transition to something quickly because we obviously Nicole and I are the lights of both of your lives. First child,
Goes without saying.
we were the introduction to you for motherhood. But mom, David is kind of your miracle child. And what was that like? Bringing another child in, but also one that I feel like you and dad had to try a little harder for David than you had for me.
You don't want to go into that. Do you really want to go into that?
I don't know. Do you want to go
It
into
was
it?
hard.
I mean, a lot of people out there have difficulties.
Okay, so I had secondary infertility after Kate because Kate, I was in ICU for 3 days. I bled out, and so it was a very difficult pregnancy with her. So Dave almost didn't happen. There was a doctor here in Boston that was able to make it happen. And I look at what's going on today because we did infertility and when I finally got pregnant, it was ectopic. And I look at today and think, oh my gosh, look at what's happening today. So people have to
Yeah.
be really wise about what's happening and what happens with their body. And so we had to decide whether we were going to do infertility or not after that. Of course, we went to Disney World because Kate, we promised Kate a visit to Disney World. And I went against doctor's orders because I wasn't really cleared to go. But I said, I have this child who would never forgive me if we didn't go to Disney World. So we
My
went
mom is
anyway.
going through literal crisis, and I'm like, sucks, bitch, bring me to Disney. I'm just an absolute nightmare.
I said, you don't understand the child I have. So I'm going anyway against your orders. So anyway, but then Mike and I were trying to decide whether we were going to go through infertility again. And it was like, we didn't know if it could ever happen. And Dave happened naturally.
You know what?
And
That
it's
was
and
so
I
big.
and I accept the second favorite child moniker because I accept it because he was
He's not
he
a
was a
favorite.
miracle.
He was just a miracle, but he's not fair. We didn't want Kate going through life alone. I really wanted another child because
I would have been such a nightmare if I was alone for my whole life. Can you
Yeah.
imagine
Mike
me
was
as an
older.
only child?
I mean, we were older.
I
so
would have
we
been
didn't
terrible.
Want, we
Yeah.
didn't want you to go through life alone. So
I'm
she has
imagining.
David, and I'm so glad they get along.
It took a while. But we do
Yeah.
get along. He is.
That's all right. That was me and Danielle, Kate. Mom made me hang out with Danielle all the time. And I said, why are you making me bring her everywhere?
This is Danielle.
Now she's my mini me.
Yeah.
Oh, Danielle's there.
Yeah.
Everyone's
Danielle,
around the
they're all
table,
there.
Pam.
We should
They're
swing
all around the
over to
table, so I
Danielle.
can see all their reactions. Yes.
No, Pam has a live
Danielle.
studio audience that they're
She does.
recording.
I do have a live studio on.
Mom, wait. What was your journey like having did you plan to have such a long time between me and Danielle, or did you feel like you struggled? Danielle just texted me, she said, I'm leaving a negative review.
She left. She's leaving now. No, again, I think, I mean, your father and I, even to you, right? We were, what year were you born? 93, and we got married in 90. I mean, the whole family was like, shit, are they ever going to have kids, right? Oh my God. And so it had to be right for me. But then I think after the first one, I mean, I was in bed rest. It was traumatic with
I was a nightmare.
with that doctor, right? And so they had to use the forceps to bring you out. And it was completely natural. I had no drugs, right? So that alone took me a while to get over, right? I'm like, I'm not sure I ever want to have another kid because I wasn't allowed because my platelets were so low. They couldn't give me an epidural because they were worried about it. So I had to have a natural delivery, right? But I think, again, once in a while you forget it, right? Like all women do. They have and they're like, okay, we're ready for another one. But, it took a while.
Yeah.
And then Kyle knows the story. You all know the story, right?
was nice.
We had a good time with Uncle Hardy.
Not with Hardy.
We had a good time with
Please.
Uncle Hardy. And thank God we had Kyle. We love Kyle. And then we're so happy that Kyle. And don't forget, when we were in the ultrasound room and they said, you're having a boy, Dad, was the happiest man on earth. Not that he doesn't love you girls, but so it was all right. It was the right thing our family is perfect.
It happens truly. It does kind of happen when it is supposed to. And it's crazy because I think back to all the stories that you tell me about how I was as a child, and I feel so bad because now I know what was going on with you and Dad at that time, and I was like, holy shit, I was an asshole. I was just like, why was I doing that? And I had just no concept. Obviously I was between 1 and 6 years old, so obviously I didn't know what you were going through, but now knowing, and I'm just so sorry that I was such a nightmare. I can't even believe that you wanted another one. You're like,
I'm going to
hope it's not
interrupt
her.
you and say you are not a nightmare. No child
No.
is a nightmare.
No.
Sue does not. You were you. You were precocious. You were who you are. You were just behaving in a way that fit your environment, and that's who you are.
Yeah.
So you should never ever apologize. Like Nicole was it had to be her way or the highway a lot of times, and that's okay. We accepted that. We loved it, and
Yes.
Sue loves every ounce of what you were when you were little to where you are now. So think
I think
about
a
that.
testament too, Sue, to your parenting, you and Mike, is that you created this environment where Kate was so insulated from anything that was going on that she could be her full self, right? Like she didn't have to worry about anything.
Yeah, I had
True.
no clue like what was going on. I was like, our life is perfect. I was
Yeah.
like, this is the best life that I could have ever asked for. They're bringing me to Disney World. I am doing whatever I want. My mom is making every single one of my Halloween costumes from scratch. Like I have the best life in the world. Meanwhile, like they're going through like what now, especially as like a woman in of this age group, and I'm married, and we're the idea of kids is like on the table, and
Mhm.
like knowing what also like friends of mine have gone through, I'm like, I can empathize so much with now what I know that you guys were going through, and I give you so much credit for like, I don't know, just being so courageous in continuing to like have hope and courage in that. And the fact that David is here is amazing, and the fact that you never let me know that that was like, because I know
But
that there
that's the
are
role of
people.
a mom.
Yeah.
That's
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 the
the
role
role
of
of a mom,
mom.
is
Exactly.
to protect you. You
Yeah.
should never know of the harshness. You should never
Mhm.
know. It's not our burden to put a burden on you. Every parent feels that way. Now, we are lucky that we didn't really have to struggle that much, right? There are many single moms or married couples who don't have that luxury and their kids struggle. But I think even when you're growing up, it's the love still insulates you from realizing that the mom and dad are having a hard time. I don't think you ever, if you're doing it right, the kids are never gonna know, gang.
Mhm.
So
Yeah.
Mhm.
so that's what love is all about.
And
That's
then you
very true.
guys
That's very true.
did a great job at showing your love, because I think we both are very
Well, I
lucky.
think it also you also create a village around you, whether it's
Mhm.
family or friends, and and we always felt that we couldn't make it without that village. That the people that I would drop you off at 7 in the morning to go get tested or go to an appointment, and you were like with somebody that you trusted and enjoyed, and it just really took a group of people around you always. And I think insulate yourself with always have this group of people that you trust and that can support you in whatever you're doing.
Mhm.
That's very important.
Well, I think this just means that Nicole has to move to Rhode Island because I need my people around me. So you can't come
I think,
back.
well, this is one of the things I was thinking about too, is that I wanted to ask, in the sense that I think both of you relatively moved kind of far away from your families, that you grew up with, and made that decision to kind of go out on your own. And now that's kind of how I am, right, Mom? I live halfway across the country from you. But what was kind of that experience like for you guys to kind of carve your own path in this
And
world?
yeah, how do you create that village of people if you're not
Hmm.
around the people that you've been, that are kind of built in?
I think as you start doing it, Pam, this may be the case with you. I think as you start, like I felt I needed to get away from my family to find who I was. So it was important for me to venture on my own. So I moved from my dad was in Kansas City and I was living with him and I went to school there in Kansas. And I went back to Atlanta and then I moved to right outside Philadelphia and I didn't really know anybody there. And so, but I wanted to start fresh and new. And every place that I went, I learned something new about myself in each one. And I learned to live somewhere new. And I learned that it took 6 months to a year to really develop my group of friends, people I trusted. And so that just helped me in life. And I think it's important to do that rather than feel so insulated with just the same group of people. So
Yeah.
that was me. I had to venture on my own. I liked putting myself in situations where I felt afraid to do it. I threw myself into fear and I tried to just overcome that and create who I was. I had to learn who I was outside of family, outside of
I love
the
that.
usual.
Sounds great. I mean, I don't know, right? So I think, once I graduated high school, I was always adventurous. I went to a state college and I was a graphic design major, and I go, I am not going to succeed here. So what am I going to do? And I just
Well, did you say,
decided
hold on, did you say you weren't going to succeed, or did you say that you weren't going to make enough money?
the same thing in my mind. Those things are correlation, right? Success to me is I can live. Again, growing up in Manchester was hard. My mom and dad were not wealthy, right? And so we didn't live on the streets. We had a nice house. Everything was great, but we didn't go to Disney World. No one, I
Mhm,
never got on an airplane, right? So yeah,
mhm.
we took family vacations, but let's be clear, we weren't wealthy, right? And
Yep.
then when my dad lost his job a couple times, things were tough, but they insulated. I didn't know until I was grown that that was
Mhm.
happening, right? But so I make those decisions on my own, and I decide what's going to happen. And then, when I graduated college, there was no way I was going back to Manchester, Connecticut when I can go to New York City. Let's be
Yeah.
clear. I'm not going to go to Manchester, Connecticut. And
Well,
then
you
when
could
we
move
just,
to Hartford,
okay, that's
right?
the same. Okay, that's
No,
the
as
same.
someone that went to school in Connecticut also, she wasn't going to Hartford, Connecticut. Let's Pam
Right? That,
Pam was
that
not
was
going to
not
Hartford,
me.
Connecticut.
Yeah, right. So it was an easy decision for me, right? And again, I had Nicole and the kids laugh at me. I had 8 job offers
Well,
when I
it's not
graduated.
an easy decision because all of your siblings lived in
No, it was
Manchester.
very easy.
They
I
all
was
lived
not
there.
going. That's not who I was. I was
Yeah.
never, ever, ever going to go back to like again. High school was high school. I'm not one of those people. I don't. I went to one reunion and I was I had a good time in high school. I had lots of friends, but it was
She was
over. I
popular.
needed something else. I needed something else, and so New York City called me, and I'm like, hey, it's great. And then when Mark and I got engaged, we're like, we're not going to live in New York. We're going to move to Chicago because it's a much more livable city. We had a boat. We were sailing out on the lake, and we lived
Do you know
downtown.
anyone
And
in Chicago, or was it just like, did you just kind of say like, Chicago feels right?
yeah, Chicago.
Well,
Mark,
that's where my dad grew up.
Okay,
he
so
grew up
okay.
there.
Yeah.
Yeah, born and bred in Chicago, right? So we decided New York or Chicago. So it was an easy decision. R. Donnelly, who I worked for, corporate headquarters were in Chicago. Easily for me to move to Chicago. Although they didn't really want me. I had to call, like I was interviewing, and they're like, "Yeah, we don't really want that New York bitch, that East Coast bitch." So my boss happened to be kind of
So
Jim
she went
Donnelly,
through the
right?
back door. She went
I
through the
went
back.
through the back door and I'm like, "Hey Jim, we need them to hire me because and they did, and I went to the back door and they took me in, and that's how it all worked out.
Yeah, but we had a conversation last year where I was contemplating obviously moving back to Chicago at some point, and I was saying that it was particularly a difficult decision for me because as I continue to put down roots here, I love my friends and it's going to be hard to say goodbye to them, right? And so I think that that's something that you mentioned too, is that like obviously yeah, that was a hard decision for you. And was that something where you were like, well, you will have a little bit more of a community with Bettina being in Chicago, and like Omi, and having, family to when you decided to have kids, like having people around to ultimately help with kids when they came.
Bettina's here, so I could say yes, but in my mind, I had a lot of really good friends. I had so many great friends in New York, so it's kind of like you. That was the hardest part of leaving, right? But there are back in the old days, right? You worked for a company that were very you could have a very social company, right? And so
Mhm.
R. Donnelly was so big in Chicago. When I moved here, right, this is the scary part. When I moved here, like one of my first days in the office in Chicago, these strangers came to my desk and they're like, "Oh, you're Pam." And they were relatives or friends of the Seavers who had worked at Donnelly and knew that I had moved there. right? So yes, there was a family component, but we joined the softball group. There was the bowling group. I mean, our Donnelly had archery groups. They had knitting groups. It was like a community in and of
It was
itself,
the Google of
which
the
is
This
80s.
so
episode
different.
is
Yeah.
I'm blurring out the name. They're not getting any free promo.
Okay, yeah. So you can do that. But again, it was very easy for me. Like the first day I was there, they already scouted me and said, "Oh, do you play softball? Because we need you on our softball team." First
She
day
looks like
there,
she plays softball.
I could never.
I got recruited on the softball team and the bowling team, right? So I already had a community there.
Hmm.
So
Great.
That's
Makes
cool.
it easy.
Yeah.
That's cool.
How I don't even know if I've ever asked, how did you guys end up in Westford? Like, how did you end up where we grew up? Because like my dad grew up in Massachusetts, so obviously like that was like an easy way to get back here, and you guys met in Massachusetts,
Right.
but your family was everywhere.
Right.
But like, how did you end up like where we grew up?
Well, I was consulting with Andover schools and Groton schools.
Okay.
And so I used to have to drive through Westford.
Okay.
So when Dad and I started looking, we decided we wanted to be on the outskirts of Boston. We needed to be along the perimeter highway that brought him into Boston.
495, baby.
495. And and I needed
My favorite highway.
So we looked at it couldn't be like more than an hour outside of his work. And so I used to drive through Westford, and I said, I heard Westford is a really nice community. It's up and coming. And so that's
an
how
up
it
and
happened.
coming it was.
Yeah. We looked at Acton, we looked at Chelmsford. We didn't like any of those. And then so we ended up in Westford.
And you guys moved, I think the thing that really helped you guys in terms of like kind of creating a village and creating like a group of people is you guys moved onto a street that was like being developed, and every house was being developed. So there was like no one that had been firmly established in this place. So you were all kind of like even playing field.
Yes. There was a builder that would open up 3 lots only and put a house on it. And so we were like we were the next ones to like pick a lot kind of thing. So there were 13 houses on the street. It turned out to be what we grew up with. I grew up in Chicago, south of Chicago. And it reminded me of
good
that
head nods.
neighborhood.
Good head nods from the group.
Oh,
Where are you?
I grew up in Park
What is it?
Forest when it was starting
Park
out.
Forest.
So I lived in the rentals. We moved to a house. So I remembered that kind of community where everybody was out playing all the time till late. We would play hide and seek in the dark and go home. So we wanted something like that for our kids. So this was a 13 home street with a cul-de-sac, and everybody was young parents having kids. And it became this street full of kids that we felt our kids could really thrive in. And so Mike and I would get an itch like every 7 years. We told you this.
Oh, yeah.
He and I would start arguing almost 7 years on the dot. And we would like, what's the matter with you? And we'd say, we're itching to move, because Mike and I both moved a lot on our own to just free ourselves. And so we were like itching to get out of this town. And it
was a very like bubble town. It was a very safe bubble. It was very like, it was like it was a bubble where it was one of those towns where you don't totally know what's going on.
It's a soccer mom town,
you
know, and we were not soccer parent people.
Luckily, I didn't play soccer.
No,
I was not an athlete,
but still, it was that kind of. It was a fabulous town to raise our kids, but we would just be itching to move. And then we made a choice. We never lived in one house throughout our lives. We never went to the same school from kindergarten through high school. And we thought how nice it would be for our kids to experience that, because we never did.
And I appreciate that.
So that was a choice we made. We sacrificed staying there. So when David graduated high school,
same thing for
we
me.
were out of here.
Got out of there and came to the Cape. We found a
they were
house.
like, get us the fuck out of this town.
We bought the house a year before Dave graduated, I think, or something like that.
That was your dad, Nicole, though.
Dave, we're out of here. So, yeah. That
That
was it.
dad wanted to move?
No, Dad wanted to stay. Dad.
Oh, well, you blame it on me. You say that I said we
You
can't move.
did.
because
Yes, you did.
My friends are here and I'm
Yeah,
not
no,
leaving.
you did.
And look
That's
at this,
true.
she still has the same like core group of friends that she's had her whole life.
does,
So
Yes.
that is
You and your dad. No, we're not moving. I'm like, okay. fine.
and how are you
She
gonna
calls
argue
me
with
on the block.
Nicole and Mark? You can't.
Yeah.
All
No,
right, I know
I
we're
would
coming
lose
up.
that battle every single day of my life.
All right, we've taken up an hour of Mother's Day. I think one last question I would love to hear from the both of you is like, what's one piece of advice that you would give us for this era of life that we're currently in?
You want me to go first, Sue? Is that what you want?
Go, Pam, if you got it. Go ahead.
No, So
She's probably thought about
it's
it
hard
once.
for me because, again, in my 30s, I had started having children. I had a home, right? But not the path you choose. So the path you choose is your own. Be bold, be brave, and don't worry about it because it'll all be great. Whatever decision you make, everyone frets about, oh my God, is it the right decision? Don't worry about it. Just do it. Do whatever makes you happy because that'll be the right decision.
It's a good one.
Very true. I think this phase that you guys are going into is one of the most exciting phases because this is where you kind of play around with who you are and you can just develop it. You can kind of like what Pam was saying. You're never going to make a bad decision. So experiment, have a good time. Things will fall into place, but you're young, but you've got so much ahead of you. So just
Mhm.
enjoy this.
Plenty of time.
Enjoy the 30s. Oh my God. This is like the most fabulous time to create who you want to be and make it happen. Make it happen. You can
I
do
would
it.
agree.
That's the key. The follow through. We got to make it happen.
Make it happen. Easy to say.
Well, thank you very much for allowing us to share our thoughts and our visions and our
Thank you guys for
This
coming
is
on. This
our
was
stories.
so fun. This was so fun. I think Nicole, correct me if you disagree, but probably one of our better episodes. So I think we have to make this maybe
Yearly tradition.
yeah, everyone that is listening, let us know if you want our moms to be regular guest appearances. We can do like a mom check-in
That's a
and
big no.
in their
They're like,
questions
no.
to get some real mom wisdom.
All right. Well,
Thank
thanks,
you.
guys.
Thank
Love you guys.
Love you.
Thank you.
Love you.
Thanks for listening to See You on the Internet.
To keep up with the fun between episodes, make sure to follow us at See You on the Internet Pod on both Instagram and TikTok.
And to join in on the fun on the podcast itself, call the Kate and Nicole hotline at 646-780-9063 or email us at hi@seeyouontheinternetpod.com.
We'll be back with a new episode soon, but in the meantime, we'll see you on the internet.